Hello everyone, my name is Lori Thibodeau and I'm a natural science teacher. I've been teaching for 24 years, most of that time in middle school science, but quite a few years in elementary science lab as well. One of the most important determiners for student success within the science class that I've found is vocabulary knowledge. Without knowledge of vocabulary words, students are not able to comprehend the information that I'm trying to teach them. I found that one of the best ways for me to support students with vocabulary is through explicit instruction. One method that I think is fun and engaging for students is a gallery walk. Now, the beauty of this strategy is that students communicate prior knowledge not only with one another, but also with the teacher. This activity is a great way to do that by introducing a unit, but it's also versatile enough that you could modify it and use it for other things. Within groups, students would walk around and place their ideas, any examples they can think of, characteristics, or even definitions they might know about each vocabulary word, and they'd place them on the poster. Each group would have a different color pen, and we'll talk about that a little bit later, that is important. And as they move from place to place, they would write down what they're thinking. And as we all know as teachers, time is precious, and we can't spend all of our time teaching vocabulary, especially in science. We need to do some science. This activity, the gallery walk, is a good way to give a short activity that is very impactful. As a matter of fact, I'd set the timer for about 2 minutes at each station, and with 6 vocabulary words, that's only about 12 minutes for the actual activity. Okay, after we've completed the gallery walk activity, as a class, you would bring everyone back together again as a group to discuss each one of those words. I usually would make a template for a Freyer diagram. Let me show you what that looks like. Freyer diagrams I love to use in science, and what I would do is I would put 2 of them on a sheet of paper, make enough copies for all the kids, they would cut them and put the blank Freyer diagrams in their science journal so that as we're discussing things in the class they can write stuff down. They put the word in the center, definitions, examples, ideas, characteristics, and by the time they've done all this, they can write some non-examples, which is also important. So, as a group, we would discuss each word's definition, what's been written. Most of the time, students have more to add during our class discussions, and that is encouraged. But this portion of the lesson can vary in time, and it's important for you to use all those teachable moments when you're discussing things, but also be mindful of your time constraints. Now, we started out with the word energy, and on the energy poster, there were a couple definitions, or a couple of ideas and things that students wrote down. Things like make things work, plants make energy, travels through wires. And what we ask the students to do also is to place checks. If it's something that you know already, put a check beside it so that we aren't writing the same things over and over again. Or maybe you think that that's correct and you put a check beside it. So, as we're going through all of these posters, I'm pointing out examples from each group. We're confirming or questioning their responses as we go. Now, some words are going to be harder than others, and they're going to need more research or instruction from me to support students. If you know that students are going to need additional support with the vocabulary word, you could assign each group some time to look up the word perhaps in their textbooks. Most of the time, though, they are able to reflect on what others have written and that discussion still be able to come up with a workable definition. It looks like the class really struggled with the word radiant, and I would encourage them to expand on their ideas. I might call on the purple group and ask them why did they write the word bright. And with discussion, I would also look at the word sun and stars and show the connections between those two, because that's a great example of radiant energy. Now, occasionally you might get a group that has a misconception, and although you don't want to have a lot of misconceptions, you want to know what they are because you need to address them. Now, if you look at mechanical, the red group wrote phones. Now, phones don't have mechanical energy that helps them to run. Mechanical energy needs movement, but you need to talk to the kids about why they did that. Maybe they have an antique phone around the house that has a rotary dial. You never know. Now, you can use what other groups have said to challenge that or talk about that. But since the groups have used colored markers, I just noticed that the red group wrote phones. We go back to the red group, ask them to expand on that. And this way, you don't single out a certain person to write who wrote that. It's more like a group discussion. Now, what I had to look up to see if there was any mechanical energy in everyday phones. I wanted to be sure. And having that uncertainty is good. You want to model uncertainty because you want to show your kids, I don't know everything, but when I don't know something, I look it up. And that's what I want you to do later. Now, I hope that this quick intro to using gallery walks in your classroom is helpful. What I like most about it, though, is that it allows students to access prior knowledge. It front loads some information. It identifies those misconceptions that you need to address. And it allows the students to begin thinking about what's to come in our unit. Now, when they have readings or projects, or if they're doing experiments, they will be able to go back in their journal, add things to their Freyer diagram that they've learned. They can use those to study with. All kinds of wonderful uses for that vocabulary knowledge.